Hi everyone, we are back again. So I think no introductions required because you know everybody here. So I thought of moderate the panel because the focus area is platform and platformless. So we will start the conversation here with the panelists and then open for the floor, then you can contribute as well. The reason why I didn't took questions after my session because this is the forum to have a conversation and you can ask any question during my session as well as the stuff that we are planning to discuss here. So I'll start the panel. Basically, I would like to get everyone's feedback on your platform journey. Have you started it? And then if you have started, where you are? I'll start with Richard and then we can go around.
Platform journey, I guess being a greenfield site, we didn't really have an initial idea of what the technology was going to be. We just needed to know what the requirements were going to be. So having with TechM provide us the WSO2 implementation, we kind of get them to lead us of how we wanted them to build it out for us. So really, it was down to their practice in Chennai to work with Rahul and the team, who've done a fantastic job, I have to say, to actually then build it out for us. And then as we work with our side of the business to work out how often we should send a message, receive a message, they then got the requirements to build those out into the platform.
Great. Yeah, probably Aditya.
Yep, sure. Platform-wise, we actually started quite long back building this entire IoT platform. And I remember we actually started with just having a very simple platform to provision SIMs, which would only allow GPRS. Mm-hmm. From that state, now we have come a long way. We have like all the, you can say anything, 2G, 3G. 3G is decommissioned now by Vodafone, but LTE, even 6G. Plus, we have integrated with various consumers, various other applications. We have now APIs export. So now it has become a very mature platform from where we started.
Great. Martin, any feedback?
Yeah, that's a big question for me because the university is like a collection of businesses. It's a large organization. So I'm going to speak to this from a developer's point of view, where when I started, we probably deployed onto physical servers, then they became virtual servers. And then we started looking at Kubernetes. We were really interested in Kubernetes. More and more of our software vendors were moving to the cloud, so we were going, as I mentioned in my presentation, we were going API first. And when it looked to our API first strategy, WSO2 came along with Choreo, which had Kubernetes under the hood. And it's like, why are we building a Kubernetes cloud in-house when there's one provided to use, and we can even experiment with that, do proof of concepts with it. There's a free version. So, yeah. From a developer's point of view, is gone from like physical machines to like containers.
Great. So Rosie, how is the Met Office platform journey and where you are in that particular journey?
As I talked about earlier, we are very much constrained by certain government policies. So we are definitely moving away from platform technology, and because we see that AWS or cloud technology is a lot more greener, which is a key component for us. So the Met Office already had a contract with AWS, so that was straight away what we went with and how we are going with it. We are also looking at Azure Cloud as well, working with Microsoft. So I suspect at some point in the future there will be some technologies that will be using WSO2, which we've had assurances from you guys to say it all works on that, so that's good. And then going forward, there's been whispers of Kubernetes and stuff like that, but it feels a bit of a way off for us at the moment. And certainly within, I hate to say the word journey, but where we are at the moment, feels still very much within our infancy of doing this. So I think building it out is a big one.
Yeah. So it's interesting, different stages you are in the journey and then different maturity levels. So to connect the dots like the platformless and platform, so I would like to ask what was your reaction, the first reaction when you heard about platformless? So I'll start with Martin because I saw a mail from you when you used our platformless our platform and got a platformless experience. It was like Christmas. That's what you said. So I will start from you. What's your reaction, and then any feedback or any addition that you would like to add to this concept as well?
The fact that going platformless removes a lot of that infrastructure headache. It does make life much easier. Your containers can become more disposable. You can build things in parallel. The life cycle becomes much easier to manage. I would also say that with the number of components that we've got, something that we've tried to implement is this idea of domain-driven design and cell-based architecture.
Yeah.
And we touched on this in the last presentation, talking about projects within Choreo. I think projects for me has a different meaning, but I would call them business containers. So the way we've delivered this is we've created business containers for each of the business areas within the university, and for each component that we need for that business to run or to work, they're all deployed in that same container, so we can view the interactions or logs for the entire container or for each component individually. The other thing that I really enjoyed about this platformless experience is the auto-scaling. The fact that you can do, as the load increases, you can get your component to auto-scale. This is very important to us at the university, where we've got key times of the year where we see an increase in load and demand, especially beginning of academic year is a really good example of that. What else could I talk about? I think the analytics that you get, being able to see latency, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll stop there. That's
okay. I think you touched a really interesting point about cell architecture as well, because you spoke about the teams. Because one focus that we had when we introduced the concept, cell architecture is application architecture, and then it's about the deployment architecture, and then it's about people. So that's how you can have a way of grouping these teams and then have a focus area or a domain and then work inside that particular domain. So that's one key concept came with cell architecture, and then we added it to the platform, which provides the platformless experience. Aditya, any feedback on platformless concept?
Yeah, the concept-wise, it is really, I think, one of the more beneficial one. I think as Martin mentioned, it is definitely going to save lots of money for us, because we are not going to manage platform. So you don't have to manage your infrastructure as well.
Yeah.
It will be a bit more easier for the time to market. Developers can actually focus more on building the actual solution rather than worrying on the platform. Going on to this journey, I think everyone, we are on that digital modernization journey, right? So we are trying to modernize each and every component, the entire platform. Because if we don't modernize, then the person who is actually ready with his security threat, he is definitely up there and up to the task. So we have to be on that journey of continuous modernization. And it's not a project, as I think you mentioned earlier, it's not a project that it starts and it completes. It's a continuous journey. Also, platformless it has to be adopted across the entire domain or entire board. So we cannot modernize, or we cannot make one part of it as platformless and the others can still be on that. So it may not serve the complete purpose. Also, security-wise, how secure, or whether it is up to that level of security where we can easily move from platform to platformless. I think these are some of the key points which I...
Yeah, I think the modernization is like either you are using the same car for your daily commute, or you kind of trade it and get a new car, right? Mm-hmm. Still, you can use the old car, it's perfectly fine, but then again, the maintenance cost might be really high. Plus, when you get on the highway, like other cars will pass you and go, right? So I think that it's like like you can ride a vintage car for your fun, but daily commute, I think you need to keep on upgrading. Yeah. It's like that. Yeah, I think that's a key point. And as I explained, Platformless expediting that process and simplifying the modernization as well. So I'll come to Rosie and then before I come to Richard. So any feedback, or what's your feeling when you heard about the concept?
Coming from an operational old school feel, my inner control freak screams, why can't I have access? But actually, I can see, like you say, that natural evolution to being able to deliver. I mean, product managers, it's just that natural cycle to be able to respond and to that market demand. And being able to do that instant turnaround to respond to things, you can just see it's the natural way of things will be going. And I suspect once the product managers get hold of this concept and idea, then they'll be really pushing for us to be going down this route. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to enjoy where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, and I think one interesting thing that I heard, like there was a platform engineering panel discussion, and then one person from the audience asked a question about the runtime and what are the responsibilities they take and how they make sure the applications are running in the platform. And the answer from the platform engineering team, we are not responsible for runtime, we just build a platform. And it's up to SRE team to make sure that the platform applications running on the platform are healthy. So I think that's where our platform engineering is heading as well. So that's one thing that we thought. Platformless is the way that how you do platform engineering correctly. Like not only building the platform, how you deliver that experience, and then treat platform as a product. Because it's not a project that you build a platform. You have to keep on improving it. You have to go through these iterations and then keep on providing that capabilities, as well as be responsible about the runtime, not only just building a platform. So Richard, any feedback from you?
Well, just coming up with some Martin was saying, obviously we don't build our own software, but the auto-scaling was an interesting one. Yeah. Because I sent out a project to our performance team when we were building the platform to say that we had so many transactions per month we needed to put through. We had latency to put through, and we had so many switches to put through. And those numbers I showed a little bit earlier. But when we started to auto-scale up and say, actually, what can we push through the platform? And at that time, I told them to turn auto-scaling off. It got to a certain point where I think my latency was under a second, but I was still pushing 27 seconds with something like 80,000 transactions a second going through, and this thing wouldn't fall over. It just kept on going and going and going. And tantamount to the Kubernetes firing up, the EC2s firing up, and everything like that. And then when we turned auto-scaling on, it just kept going. So we know that this platform is very, very stable. We know we can put a lot of transaction spikes through it without any... Of course, there'll be degradation of service because we want to have that subpar 1 second transaction time. But we know we're not going to sit there and having to scramble around to try and get things working again when they fall over. So kudos to you.
Yeah, so when we introduced the concept, we got some feedback from the industry that some of them, they thought this is a buzzword that we are using to sell Choreo. But that's not the intention. So this came through kind of first principles that we wanted to have a purpose to build a platform. So the purpose we identified through Platformless. That's why we thought, okay, the platform we are building should provide a platformless experience. And it's not about just buying that. It's about building as well. In my deck, I had the builder versus buyer, builder and buyer basically. And that's where we can contribute a lot for the buyers, because if you want to build a platform, then take these different technologies, and even you can use a framework like Backstage or whatever the frameworks available, or you can build your own framework and build that platform. But end of the day, give a platformless experience for the consumer who you are building. Because the problem is, if you don't give the correct experience, we might go back to shadow IT. You might have a platform, but people will build applications outside the platform without consuming it. So it will be completely waste of money, time, and it will become platform of platforms. There will be multiple platforms running within the organization used by different teams. And the purpose of having a platform will completely will go out if organizations will move to a model like that. So I think that's where we think the concept will be really beneficial for builders as well as who just want to consume a platform. So with that, I would like to get some questions from the audience.
Hello panel, this is Vijay from TechM. I think there was an interesting conversation about platform or getting into a platformless situation. Like in this entire journey, has anyone had challenges in terms of getting away from legacy solutions? Like, because IT is always coming from old to new, and this new is not new. It's going to be old in some time, right? So what is the approach you had in terms of if you have challenges like a mainframe legacy system or a C# legacy system, and getting into a platformless or an API integration from WSO2 perspective? Was there any challenge of such kind? And again, the second question, maybe it's to WSO2 to understand. There's been a lot of talks about Choreo, right? So how is Choreo adaptable from being a SaaS offering from WSO2, or can be incorporated into a client's environment where it can then be a paid services, so that they don't need to worry about coming into WSO2 to deploy certain things and run Choreo from their own infrastructure? So,
okay. Yeah, I think we can take the first question, and I'll answer the second part of the question. Anybody would like to contribute?
Yeah, I could comment on that first one, going from like legacy software and moving into platformless solutions. So, as I said in my presentation, like back in 2018, we still had a lot of systems on premise, like point to point. And from the support team's point of view, it was very easy, because if there was something wrong, they just went to the database and had a look. Oh, that's the issue. They could correct it there. When you're out in the cloud, you can't do that anymore. And so I think the challenge is trying to decouple all your business process, or all the components that are needed to deliver an integration. So a good example of that would be a scheduled task. You don't want your scheduled task in with your with the code that's the processing code, because if you're auto scaling, then if you've got 10 copies of this, your scheduled task is running 10 times. So you want to decouple your scheduled task outside of your processing code and just call it once. I think this decoupling exercise is very good, and it makes you examine like exactly what it is that you're building. It does, from a support point of view, it does make the support team go, oh, hang on a minute, it was just one thing we had to look at before, and now we've got like 4 things or 5 things, and there's so many different steps in the chain. Like, is it failing because it didn't get an OAuth token? Is it failing because there's a firewall rule? Is it failing because there's a problem with the data? And where do I look? Where do I start? So I think there is, from a coding point of view, you need to decouple. From a people point of view and from a support point of view, it's a different way of thinking. and you need to start thinking analytically about there are more points of failure, but ultimately with this decoupling, you're making things more reusable and more scalable. So does that answer your question? Yeah. Yep.
Anybody want to contribute to that?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool. So the modernization, actually, I think there's no cookie cutter approach, right? Like because you have to look at what's really existing, and I think I discuss about 5 styles. Again, when it comes to a pattern, you can't just use a pattern blindly. A pattern plus context is where you can apply it to the organization. So look at it from what's your priority, and then how easily you can do it, and then pick a style and then do the modernization. So that's the advice, and we can't have this is the way you should do it. And when it comes to modernization, technology is not the problem. You can easily define the architecture, you can easily find the correct technology to build that. The people that's the problem, right? Like the resistance to change.
More related to that because
Exactly.
the users or the
Yeah.
developers work
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Age-old technologies.
Yes.
How they adapt.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Now they're not ready to learn, upskill,
Yeah.
so that they're concerned about their position in the industry.
Exactly. So so you have to balance it, you have to handle it, and I think getting people engaged is the most important. I'll tell you a story. I was in New Jersey working with one of our customers, and then they had a home-grown identity solution, and then it was kind of really old technology that they have used, and it doesn't scale. So they were looking for a solution, and then we had a new architecture, and then we introduced our identity server as well as part of how you build it. And we had this detailed discussion. And there was a security architect who was telling from the beginning, this doesn't work. Okay, this doesn't work. And then I got one of our security experts as well on call, and then he tried to explain, no, your existing system does support this stuff, but you need to change in this way. Again, he was not accepting at all. For some coincidence, I told, we'll say him, Patrick, okay, hey, Patrick, you are the one who's going to handle the new project, and then you are going to lead it. So that was like a magical moment, and after that he was supportive. Only problem he had, am I in or out? Okay, so as soon as he figured, okay, I am part of the project, I am going to lead it, completely a different conversation, and he was supporting. I think that's the main problem. We need to make sure that this set of Avengers will come and change the organization. Without that mindset, how we can use the existing people and then identify roles for them, well define it, make sure they are part of the discussions, and then if there are any skill gap, bring those stuff with that particular team. That's the best way to handle it. Again, it's not easy. But that's the nature we need to deal with. So the second question, I'm not clear about the question. If you can repeat it, I can answer it.
I was just asking about Choreo platform.
Yeah.
Is it always the end customer consumes from deploys on your platform?
Yeah.
Or is it possible we set up the platform in the customer's infra so that you have a similar Choreo platform on their private cloud or private SaaS?
Okay.
Then depending on WSO.
Yeah. So it's a platform, and the architecture, you have the control plane and the data plane. So control plane, we run it like that's the way it is, and it needs certain set of infrastructure, so we run the control plane. When it comes to the data plane, there are 2 models that we run it for you. I think that's a preferred model, but in case if you want to run it, you can do that as well. But according to our playbook, because if you change it, it will not work. There are compatibility issues, and there are certain advantages we are bringing by keep on improving the product. All these things we need to update to your data plane. So within that framework, you can be responsible to run it from SRE point of view. So those are the two models that we have. Amila, correct, right? Yeah.
So I think one concern we have seen from some of our users and customers is like they are worried, okay, now it's their code being deployed, right? Some of them, they don't want to deploy their code in some infrastructure which they don't know, right? So the two options which Asanka mentioned are correct. We have this data plane in cloud, which is run by us, or you can we can have private data plane, which we prefer to run, or you can run, but you have to follow certain rules, right? Because otherwise the compatibility will be lost. When you run a private data plane, basically your code doesn't go into the cloud, your images doesn't go there, your secrets, everything is in that private data plane. So all those, the builds will happen there, your logs, your usage data, analytics, everything will be in that one. So without any concerns of, having to deploy things in a place where which you don't, I would say you don't trust, but some foreign place, you can have the full control in having it in your infrastructure.
So by the way, Amila is our head of engineering. He is heading the entire R&D team, and he used to be the product manager of Choreo product. That's Amila. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, and then we can support any Kubernetes cluster now. Like it can be a hyperscaler supported Kubernetes cluster or something that you run using some kind of a Kubernetes flavor. And we have a concept of bringing a kind of a micro Kubernetes clusters as well for developers to use it in their laptops and then spin up a data plane and do all their R&D work using Choreo. So it's extending that support, but at the moment, Kubernetes is a dependency. And in the future, we are planning to support this kind of serverless platforms that like Lambdas and those kind of different type of deployment models as well. So that way from Choreo you can deploy into either it can be a GCP serverless environment or AWS or Azure or whatever. And that's another thing that we are planning to enhance. So that way Kubernetes plus those type of serverless environments can be used. By the way, Choreo is serverless as well, because we scale to zero and then manage everything and providing you a zero trust environment there as well. Any other questions?
This is regarding the platformless question you asked from the panel, right? I think all of them mentioned some advantages, but I think we didn't talk about the headache of compliance. Right, when we are setting up your own platforms, like all of you might have gone through the pain of, meeting certain regulations, compliance, security, and all those. So that's something I think we need to highlight, because we completely, take that headache out of you.
Yeah.
That's a big part of, I think, building a platform.
Yeah, so we have a dedicated team, and even we recently onboarded the chief security and compliance officer as well, who has a ton of experience doing this stuff in one of the hyperscalers. So as Samila said, like a very focused effort, and we are bringing these standards and then compliance related requirements. So that way, based on your domain and then based on the region, whatever the standards that you need to apply, automatically coming from Choreo. And then if you are building a platform, you have to consider that as well to make it more practical.
That's really good
Yeah.
to hear. Take your headache away.
Any other questions?
Hi, I'm interested in when you're running the Choreo platform, how does the handoff for support incidents between application and platform work in practice? Who gets the first call, and how does the interaction between the two teams work?
So I think it depends, right? Like if it is a question about the application, then your applications teams will get the that request. But if it is something related to platform, and if we are running it for you, then yes, we will provide support to
Are
that.
the application teams getting alerts signal from the platform when things that are application related occur, and are they required to provide the probes necessary to facilitate that? How does
So now we have the observability inbuilt within the platform, and then we have certain set of dashboards as well. And we can export, we export the data, you can take the observability data and then put it to your observability layers as well. So like that, we are helping the application teams to take these decisions, as well as we have inbuilt AI capabilities that it will detect some of these things before things will happen, and then again we will monitor certain patterns as well. So that way we are supporting the applications teams to give a better support for the end users of the organization.
Sorry, one related question. So when we are running the Choreo platform, where does the application data plane reside? I mean, the application database, just as an example. I mean, can that be independent of the platform, and the platform would just integrate with that using standard connections?
So it depends on the architecture. So Choreo, anything you can containerize can bring inside the platform. So our preferred model is if you can containerize everything, including your services and then the rest of the components that you need to build this application, bring it to Choreo and then run it. So, but then again, it might be not the reality, because you might be running these things in different type of platforms. So then we have the capability that we have connectors for certain set of systems, as well as the architecture supporting this southbound calls as well, that you can make a call, a secure call from Choreo to those service platforms and then consume those services as well. Both architecture supported, and it can be a system or it can be the services that you are writing, no issue.
Right, and that might not be on cloud as well. Is that fine?
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's just a connection.
What we need is a connection. And a lot of customers who's running stuff on cloud, they still run stuff on-prem as well, especially when it comes to financial sector, right? So you already have that VPN connection from the provider to cloud provider to your data center, and then we create that secure connection and do the communication. It's a common pattern. Okay, I think it's time, right? Yeah, so you need to close the panel.